The Hard Parking Podcast is sponsored by Talk Mobile. Talk Mobile is an innovator in retail and works with organizations like T-Mobile to operate stores throughout Arizona, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Louisiana. For more information and to jumpstart your career, please visit TalkMobileNet.com. Again, that's TalkMobileNet.com, our big-time sponsor. Welcome back to the Hard Parking Podcast. This is your host, Jhae Fenning. Did the Future Collector Car Show a couple weeks ago, maybe 1 weekend ago. It was our fifth show, sponsored by ClassicCars.com. Up until now, up until this year, I've never been able to attend due to scheduling conflicts. As you know, I travel all the time. It is promoted by a really nice person, Rebecca Wynn. Awesome staff. This year, they flew in some people as guest judges, which includes Fielding Shredder. Fielding Shredder is known for a Netflix show called Hyperdrive. Pretty badass show. It's always interesting when you get to meet people that you see on TV or you watch on videos, not necessarily TV, on the computer, and they're always different in person. Like, I don't know him, but you know, it's just, you don't know, it's like a person tall, the person small. Anyway, Fielding Shredder was super cool, and he actually judged my car. And during this show, I actually got second place for Best Modified. There's 150 cars. I was eligible for only 9 trophies because one of the trophies was like Rising Star or Rookie of the Year, which is basically for tuners who are up to a certain age. I'm old. And another one had to do with, Best Ford, which obviously an Acura NSX does not count. But in talking to Fielding after I won the award, he said that I started off in 4th place and he had to lobby for me really hard. Now, how cool is that? How cool is that for a celebrity judge to love your car and love your build so much? He kept bringing other judges over to show all the details of my wrap. To me, that's pretty freaking awesome. Like I said, it was an awesome show. Fielding Shredder. You need to check him out. Another one of my buddies is a judge there for 4 years and running. He didn't judge my car, didn't have anything to do with my car, because that keeps it honest. You know what I mean? But he had nothing. He's had nothing but good things to say about my car. And I guess my point in all this is because he's an older guy. He's got a ton of Lotuses. He's got a couple NSXs. And it's almost like you don't think people are going to understand your build once they get to a certain age. I know that probably sounds fucked up, but, again, my car is based off my favorite cartoon when I was a kid, okay? This guy's significantly older than me. He's pushing the mid-60s, probably, maybe 70s. But when I showed him the car for the first time, he was like, oh my God, Jay, this is awesome. And I was like, yeah, cool. Yeah, I guess it is, So it was cool to have him there as a judge and just kind of pulled me aside and we were just kind of bullshitting. We just talked cars the whole time, but it was an awesome show. I'm so humbled to have got second place. I actually did not intend to get anything. I just wanted to make sure my car was as presentable as it could be at this type of show because it felt kind of concourse-y. Not quite because it's kind of a tuner show, but it's everything. I mean, there were GT40s there. There was all sorts of super clean. So the car that won Best of Show was an RX-7. It was an older guy. So you'd think you'd see him at some of these classic car shows because he was older, old school, baseball hat, all that kind of stuff. But he had a beautiful yellow 93 RX-7. Thing was modded out, not ridiculously modded out, like tastefully modded out, but it was really cool to see that car and that owner win. A Mazda Miata got Best Modified, and that was really cool. It was a little tiny little Miata. So you never know on a show. So when you show up to a car show and you think you don't have a shot, don't mail in. Just do your best. Make sure you clean your vehicle because a lot of these hardcore car shows are all about points. So you can get 2 NSXs, and this is why I typically beat Brandon, one of my good friends, out. He has an NSX that's a lot more popular than my car is on Instagram. It's a beautiful red NSX. Tommy Cairo gurney flap. It's got some beautiful work wheels, but he doesn't spend as much time on his car as I do my car. And he'll admit it. His engine bay is always dirty, but the difference is, his interior is kind of messed up. But if you were to put that on Instagram, he gets, and again, we had an episode about likes, so likes don't matter, but in the context of this conversation, he could post his car and he'll get 2,000-3,000 likes. I'll post my best picture and I might get 200 or 300 likes. That doesn't mean his car is a lot better than mine, doesn't mean my car is a piece of shit, but, from a passerby, instant recognition, his car just blows my car away. And I get it. But when you go to a car show, again, it's based off of points. So they say, okay, who has the cleanest wheels? Like literally clean, like literally dust-free cleanest wheels, not who has the best wheel brand, because the wheel brand matters too. But I'm going to get him. The wheels, we might be tied. He might win. Who has better tires? Well, I have an official tire sponsor. He doesn't. So I'm probably going to win the tires. Who has a cleaner engine bay? Well, I spent a lot of money on my engine bay. Not only is it physically clean, but it's dressed up. That's points. My interior is pretty cool, but I keep it clean. That's points. Anyway, I was really excited to take home that trophy. It means a lot to me. Yeah, that might be my last big show of the year. There's a lot of other shows, but I don't know. It might be time to retire the VF1S NSX. I still haven't decided. I always think I've decided, but I never quite fully decide. Finally saw Ford versus Ferrari. You know, it started off kind of slow to me, but my God, is that a damn good movie. It's a good movie, and it makes you wonder, you know, how much of that is true? And a lot of it's true. A lot of it's kind of romanticized for the big screen. And, you know, it's, as far as like the feud between Ken Miles and the guy at Ford, you know, they made that a lot more dramatic. A lot of people had involvement in the development of the MK2, not just Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby. It's almost as if they could have called the movie Shelby and Miles' story or something, because the movie it felt just a lot about their relationship, and then the Ford versus Ferrari was kind of in the background. But I did see a documentary, I think I said it before, it's called The 24-Hour War, and I saw it about a year ago, and that was produced by Adam Carolla. Some of you don't know this, but Adam Carolla is a huge car guy. He's really big into imports, believe it or not. JDM, he's really big into the Datsuns. He goes out and buys all the Paul Newman cars, or as many as he can get his hand into. But The 24-Hour War is a solid documentary. And so when I first saw the previews for Ford versus Ferrari, I thought it was basically, hey, they're just taking the 24-Hour War, bigger studio, and turning it into a bigger movie. But if you get an opportunity, go in and watch the 24-Hour War. It's an excellent documentary. I typically don't watch stuff like that because, I'll be honest with you, I typically don't care about stuff like that. But the reason I watched it is because I'm a huge fan of Adam Carolla's, and I've been a fan of his for years and years and years, and he actually does really good work on documentaries. Doesn't get a lot of the credit he deserves, but he does great work on documentaries. He made a movie called The Hammer, a comedy, years ago. It's a boxing movie because he used to teach boxing. On my Instagram, picking up a car this week and walking out of the rental facility, and I look to the left, and there's a red Lamborghini Huracan. Look to the right, and there's a black Ferrari California. Now, I've seen the Ferrari there before. I haven't seen the Huracan there before. And so I did the poll. Guys, should I take this car or that car? Or I think it's that car or that car. So the first car was obviously the Lamborghini. The second car was the Ferrari. So the poll came back, and the response was 60% of the people said take the Huracan, 40% said take the Ferrari. Now, given these two cars, I would absolutely take the Huracan over the Ferrari California, but in a vacuum, I would rather take Ferrari over Lamborghini. So back in the 80s, well, Ferrari's always had they've always produced really beautiful cars. Lamborghini has produced really edgy cars. Like, there's nobody my age that doesn't think the Lamborghini Countach is a beautiful work of art. It absolutely is. Everybody my age had a Lamborghini Countach poster, whatever. Terrible car, from all accounts, from what I've heard. I've never driven one. But I've talked to some Countach owners over the years, and they said the car is a steaming pile of shit. It is, however, a work of art. Moving forward over the years, I know that when the Diablo first came out, I did not like it at all. I didn't like it until we were coming home from Six Flags. I think it was the late 90s or mid 90s. And there was a red Diablo, and it was driving in the middle lane, because that's what they do. And the sun was starting to go down, and it had its driving lights on, so not full headlights. And we just kind of floated behind it to the side a little bit, you know, like one lane over and like 2 or 3 car lanes back, and just kind of stared at it for a while. We're like, man, that is a badass looking car. So some cars, you look at it in photos, and the photos don't do the car justice. But ever since then, I was like, okay, that Diablo is really fucking cool. But it took a while. Ferrari, one of my first dream cars was a Ferrari Daytona Spider, because I love Miami Vice. I mean, 80s, you know what I mean? I thought that was just the coolest car in the world. One. Didn't really like the Testarossa, but for some reason I love the 512 TR. Fast forward to now, everything Lamborghini produces, I'm just like, not into it. It's cool looking. I have friends with Huracans. They love them. When someone handed me the keys on one, I would love to drive it. But if someone says, I'll give you a Huracan for your NSX, I know this is going to sound really crazy. Not into it. I'd keep my NSX. I'd trade for a new NSX. I'd trade for a few other cars for the experience. But I wouldn't, I'd do it for a day, but I wouldn't straight up trade somebody because I'm just not into it. With the Ferrari, they come out with some cars sometimes and I'm just like, wow, that's a nice ass fucking car. Like the Ferrari F12, the Ferrari 458, the Ferrari 488. My God, are those beautiful cars. I never really liked the California though. Now, the Ferrari 812 Superfast, that is a badass car. I was driving through Las Vegas and I had one behind me. And I was like, wow, is that an F12? And then when it got over and got in front of me, I could tell by the taillights, I go, that is not an F12. I don't know what the hell that is. And then I pulled it up on my car camera and some of the hardcore car guys, which is no longer me. They said, oh, that's a Ferrari 812 Superfast. My God, that's a badass car. I would take a Superfast in a heartbeat. I would take a Ferrari F12 in a heartbeat. Not really, one of my good buddies has a 458. They say at the time at least is the best Ferrari ever made, from a drivability standpoint. Yeah. So definitely for me, Ferrari over Lamborghini. Coming up, we'll have Victor Togunde on the phone and we'll talk some sports. Okay, as promised, we are joined by a special guest, good friend of mine. His name is Victor Togunde. He is at the Acromachine on Instagram, acting career. We used to talk about sports every year, Super Bowl, NBA, talk about college football. But I'd like to welcome Victor to the call. Vic, what's going on?
Man, I'm chilling, Jay. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to talk to you. Good to hear from you.
You too. I knew you when they called you. So, that's how long we go back. That's how long
Yeah, I know that. I also know that's also not gonna make the podcast. So
yeah. All right, but
man, in fact, I'm gonna leave that on there, but I'm gonna bleep it out.
Yeah.
That'll be my first official bleep on the podcast.
Oh, that's so messed up.
It is messed up.
That's okay.
So, 49ers and Chiefs, man, that's the Super Bowl. I think it's the first time they've had a matchup since maybe the very first Super Bowl, I think, like the Lynn Dawson days.
Yeah. The first thing I thought, well, shout out to those two teams. I did want the Packers to go. I definitely love, Aaron Rodgers. But I love the idea of wow, the guy that was kind of kicked out of New England, Garofalo, is now in the Super Bowl. So I kind of like that story, although he's kind of more of a game manager, not you know what I mean? There's something kind of cool to that story. And then, of course, with the Chiefs, I've always been a big Andy Reid fan. I just like how he is with his players. I think it's a little bit of redemption for that guy. Then, of course, Patrick Mahomes, what can you not say about that dude? So
yeah, that kid, other than his super funny voice, but yeah, there's
it's like he hasn't even hit puberty yet.
There's no bad stories here.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to see, the Titans or the Texans versus, Seattle. So, once, Kansas City advanced, then there was no bad matchup.
Yeah, that's true.
But
it's definitely a good one, And then, Richard Sherman getting back there again.
I'm happy for him. I was never a big fan of his, but I'm...
Why?
So you know me, man. You think about me. I'm super defensive when they say this is the best cornerback ever. I'm like, fuck you, Deion's the best cornerback ever.
Yeah. I get that, yeah.
I'm not a big Seattle fan, but I give him respect. Russell Wilson is insane, but I usually come full circle with people. So I'm happy for Richard Sherman to get back to the Super Bowl. I haven't decided who I really want to win. Because, in the 90s, I was a huge 49ers fan because I like Steve Young, obviously Deion.
Yeah.
I like Terrell Owens, in the late 90s. And I also agree with, the Andy Reid thing. Because they should have won the Super Bowl. They were in position to win the Super Bowl at least against, the Patriots. And
exactly.
Donovan McNabb fucked that up, in my opinion. Yeah, so it's just a feel-good story. I don't know who I want to. I guess I would have to say the Chiefs because of Andy Reid.
You gotta go for the Chiefs.
Because of Andy Reid.
That, yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. I mean, I think like, listen, I don't have a dog in the fight. My Cowboys aren't in there, right? But in terms of like great stories, like what story do you want to play out?
correct.
Right? I think the Andy Reid story with this young guy who's probably going to be the future of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. I think that combination right there for me outweighs the Richard Sherman, storyline, and the Garofalo storyline being essentially traded away from the Patriots. But I'm really interested to see in the next 2 weeks how that plays out in the media. Like, you know what I mean? I'm really interested to see how that, if they even make it a story. You think they'll make it a story?
Well, you know how it is. So during the break between the championship games and Super Bowl, they have nothing going on, so everything becomes a big story. And I agree, it's going to be okay. Well, Jimmy Garoppolo, he was traded away against Belichick's wishes because Brady wanted him out of there because he was nipping at the bud. And I understand he's not a perfect quarterback, but he's pretty good. Man, he's a damn good looking person though too. I mean, as a guy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
porn star.
Yeah. I referred to him as Superman in my opening earlier.
Yeah.
So there's that, But I mean, the guy, I don't think he's thrown for 300 yards this entire playoffs because what do you have? What was he, like 5 or 6 or 8 for 70 yards in the last game?
Yeah.
So
I mean, but here's the thing too. Like if he shows out during the Super Bowl, it could be like, wow, what potential could have been in
New England. Absolutely. I mean, they were already thinking that. There's got to be. I'm surprised it hasn't come up yet. But I mean, what's his stat line? What's the Super Bowl stat line? I'm thinking like 12 of 18 for 124 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick.
I mean, they normally run the ball.
And then with Patrick Mahomes, man, holy crap, this kid. You're right, because all season it was Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes is coming back from his injury, and Lamar Jackson was a freaking beast. He was looking like Barry Sanders out there in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But he's been exposed 2 years in a row. But it's only his second year. I mean, people are already crowning him the greatest, and he's an amazing kid. But I think for my money, because Patrick Mahomes can still sling that rock a million miles an hour and accurate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's not run first, and no one's kind of figured out how to have a level of longevity. When they're run first, when they're a great, yeah. I mean, look at the careers of Robert Griffin. Which is actually, I like the fact that he's a backup now for Lamar Jackson, because it's like, look, as the vet, let me kind of steer you, because he's been humbled.
Oh, absolutely.
He's been hella humbled, and so he can come from the perspective of like, my job is to kind of just be your backup. You're the guy that I once was as rookie of the year. Let me tell you how not to fuck up. Let me be that dude for you. And I wouldn't be surprised if Lamar Jackson, in the future, if he hasn't already, has been like, yo, like this guy that's my backup in this locker room has been essential to helping me keep my head on my shoulders and staying humble, because just of the lessons he's taught me. Like I like the fact that he's there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking to Victor Togunde, my official sports correspondent. Talking Super Bowl, talking Lamar Jackson, talking Patrick Mahomes. So how great do you think this kid could be? So who is your guy right now? Because me as an NFL, I'm a big fan of the NFL, but I'm not a big fan of any one team.
Oh, I mean, I'm listen, bro. Always by default the Cowboys, but I mean, every year they're just different. As I got older, I've always been intrigued more by just stories, like people's like kind of personal stories. And so, I guess my guy in the league, I would say is Lamar Jackson. I would say that only because it's like he was the 6th quarterback picked, I believe. All these other dudes went before him. He's balling out of control.
Correct.
I've always dug the underdog story. I mean, there'll be guys like you'll follow out of college that'll be like, oh yeah, that guy's like insane. But I mean, to be quite honest, the biggest story for me this year hasn't been like how great everybody's been. It's been how shitty Antonio Brown's
Man.
fucking fall has been.
Man.
My God, dude.
He's
Dude.
he hasn't been the same since he got, that big hit, huh? He's been kind of a basket case, and he really needs some help. Speaking of help, and this is completely unrelated to NFL, but I was on Twitter and I saw that video of Delonte West.
Yeah, man.
I was sad. I felt sad.
Yeah, somebody had just sent that to me, and I'm in this group chat with my fantasy football guys, and I said, I don't know what's worse, seeing Delonte like that, or the person who filmed it and put it on,
right,
Front Street. You know what I mean? Like that's sad. I don't know. I know, and from personal experiences, just kind of dealing with like friends and people that I've known over the years, it's like there's only so much you can do for people when they're so far gone, due to drugs or whatever. But like, I just feel like that's a video that should have never made it to light,
Absolutely.
And I pray for that dude. I hope that like he gets the help he needs. I am fascinated by how it, turned into that. And, I'll say this, man, like seeing the rapid fall of you had mentioned something about a hit. And I've kind of, some people have said something, like, is Antonio Brown suffering from like CTE or whatever? Like, what were you referring to?
Yeah, because he had I don't remember the exact hit, but I don't remember if it was a block or there was or maybe a defense's hit on him. And I don't remember if it was against the Browns or the Bengals, but it was a few years ago.
Yeah,
and he got freaking lit up, and he made it through, but he's been that was I don't think it was his last season. I think it was the season before his last season in Pittsburgh, and he's just been kind of like off his rocker since.
I mean, it would be really interesting to see, man. My thing is it's like you see that and you're like, okay, either this guy has always been nuts, because he's another guy that I've always enjoyed, because he was like a 6th round draft pick. Like he's the guy who just like made it from the bottom and made his way, and climbed his way up. And I love those stories. But then to see how like this dude has just disintegrated in such a way.
He had a fucked up childhood too.
Huh?
He had a fucked up childhood, but a lot of people do.
Yeah. But it kind of goes to show you like, wow, okay, was this always there? Like, how well did Pittsburgh manage this? Because that's a lot of it.
So Ryan Clark, I don't know if you've ever heard him say it, but Ryan Clark would tell a story from the locker room, because he and AB would hang out. He'd watch AB's kids. I've heard him on some podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
They got into it. Something had happened in the locker room, and he was just he knew at that point. He goes, "Look, man, I knew at this point this guy, he's no good." And I kept telling people, and people just called me a hater, but eventually it came out. So he could have been kind of shitty from the beginning, but when you're on top of your game, as long as you keep it off of social media.
I heard Ryan Clark say that. I heard Ryan. He had said that, like, because the thing is it's like A, the older you get, and B, if you're lucky to kind of get in and around people that might have inside scoop. For me, watching sports shows or listening to sports podcasts, I'm aware that there's so much more information those guys have known or heard about that they can't even discuss on their platforms, right? And so the thing is like there's a lot of times you can kind of read in between the lines of what they're saying, because they've heard things that they can't necessarily put out on Front Street. And so Ryan Clark had always been that dude that's been like, I've always, for the greater good of kind of supporting a teammate or to supporting an NFL brethren, I've never really been that vocal about how shitty this guy is. But now that it's out there, like, he is an awful person.
Well, now that he's putting me on blast, I gotta clear my name now.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because that was the thing that I've always like. I was like, okay, like what is it? And like, like how it's. I guess for me, it's just like, okay, management says we have an extraordinary talent. We got to figure out how to manage this person.
Correct.
You know, and you know what was really telling is the fact that Des Bryant never got picked up anywhere.
Man, that's still, to me, no one ever really came out and said anything, though, either. So I'm like, what the hell?
That's some weird shit right there, bro. To me, it's like, was Des on that Antonio Brown level, but they were like, the risk and the reward was just not there. So we're not even going to fuck with this guy. Because there's been nothing. It's like, you know, bro, real talk, I hope I like... You know, ascend into this game to where I'm in the upper echelons of just like hearing the real shit. Cause I've heard some stuff, you know what I'm saying? But like, just to be around sports guys more so I can just hear what really kind of goes down. Like
right.
I've heard crazy stories about Tom Brady being like fucked up drunk before Super Bowls. You know what I mean? But like, he's always, you know, showed up to perform. I mean, we all, you know.
It's like the Jordan shit we've heard growing up.
The Jordan, exactly. Speaking of which, well, we'll get into that later whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Let's, so you brought up Tom Brady. Let's talk about him because, you know, I've never hated the Patriots and I've never loved the Patriots. And it's kind of one of those things where I appreciate greatness because we grew up in the same era. So we got to see Barry Sanders. We got to see Michael Jordan. We got to see Deion Sanders, you know. We've got to see Dwayne Wade. We get to see that other guy, LeBron James, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah. So my son, like my wife's family on her side, they're hardcore Buffalo fans because, you know, they're from Buffalo and they hate the Patriots. And I don't know why, because it's not like I can understand why they hate the Cowboys, but
yeah, they
hate the Patriots because they can never beat them. And to me, that's not a good enough reason to hate somebody. But at least with my brother-in-law, Wilson, we can agree that because he's like, he hates the Patriots, but he respects the hell out of Brady because he recognizes greatness. Because let's be honest, going into this year, nobody honestly thought the Patriots were going to be that good, and they were still good. And then when they lose their first game, people are like, oh, we told you they weren't any good. It's like, look, no one accused them of going undefeated this year. Like, nobody predicted that shit. But now it looks like it might be almost over. I mean, do you like the Patriots? I found myself rooting for them because people hated them so much. I'm like, why do you hate them, man?
I've never fucked with the Patriots. I've never liked them. You know, I've never liked them. There was always something off about them.
But did you hate them?
Yeah. Like I just didn't. I didn't like them. I didn't, and I have just my reasoning why. I just never. They definitely have always kind of had that polarizing feeling to me, you know. But I will say this. When I saw the 60 Minutes story on Tom Brady, I wanted to really like Tom Brady, you know?
Yeah.
I really wanted to like, because again, I'm just a huge fan of dudes that everybody shits on. No one expects them to be good. Like if it wasn't for a stroke of luck that he just happened to be picked by the Patriots, like that guy would have been selling insurance 20 years ago.
Kind of the little guy, right? Because I'm kind of like that too. It's like the more people hate on somebody, the more, unless they've given me a reason not to, the more I kind of start rooting for them just to prove people wrong. And that's why we both want. I mean, Andy Reid's a great coach, and if he doesn't win the Super Bowl, then he's just going to be another guy who couldn't do shit. And it's like the coaches coach, the players play.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that Andy Reid got there with two teams, he solidified his mark. You know what I mean? Because the thing is it's like, not to jump off, you know, it's like he built the Chiefs from ground up. He picked Patrick Mahomes. He got him there. You know what I mean? It's definitely the icing on the cake. As far as I'm concerned, like I want him to win that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But like, he's solidified himself as a great coach by having gotten there, building this from the ground up. But you know, as far as the Patriots are concerned, yeah, I've for me, the question has always kind of been like, who makes that team great? Is it Belichick that just like found the great quarterback or because for me, I'll never forget that. I think it was 15-2 season when Brady got injured.
11-5.
11-5 season when Brady got hurt.
Matt Castle.
And so, yeah, Matt Castle, exactly. And so for me, I want to see the verdict is still out for me on Brady's career.
To me,
because I'm gonna measure that up against what Belichick does after Brady. That's how I feel.
And a lot of people are saying that, and I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I don't know if I can say that because I think it is the system, but I think the system you have to have the right players to buy into the system. And I think that Belichick's system is what's great, and Brady's been there so long because he's bought into the system and he's demanded excellence from the other players. So I think it is 1A and 1B, but I can't sit here and say that they would have gone to 9 Super Bowls and have 6 rings if they were a different coach. Nor can I say nor that I can say it would be the same thing if they had a carousel of quarterbacks, because you still have to have ice water in your veins once you make it to the postseason. I think with the NFL, a lot of it is luck, and it's skill and luck, proper placement. Because it's easy to say, because that's what people are saying about Patrick Mahomes. Is he really that good? Because he has the world's best weapons. Well, yeah, but he still has to get the ball. But if they're dropping the ball, then you end up with, Julian Edelman led the league in drops this year, and he dropped arguably the biggest drop of this season.
No, yeah, you're right. Out of the 3 sports, they say.
Are you talking baseball?
Football,
is baseball or hockey? Okay, baseball. Okay.
Baseball talk. Out of the 3 sports, right? They say football is primarily system oriented. It's so incumbent on just being in the right circumstance.
I could see that. That's not an argument I'd want to have against that point.
And so I can't, God, his name slips my mind, but like Jay Cutler. Everyone says Jay Cutler is like genius level, high level IQ, right? But like people say he's an example of like, had he just been in the right system, like say a Belichick system or whatever, would just take it to like the next level.
But we'll never know, right?
Yeah, we'll never.
It's like David Carr.
Never know. Yeah, David Carr. Yeah, we'll never know. Like 30 to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, you have to be on that level. And so I really think a lot of it is like, because you're not dealing with like 5 starting players in basketball where one fucking guy can take you to the damn playoffs, if not the championship. You have to deal with 52 people on a team.
Yeah, it's a system.
They all do their job, you know? And so the question remains, it's like, all right, like how much was this Belichick and how much of this was Tom Brady, you know?
Yeah, because if you don't have an offensive line, you're fucked. If you don't have receivers that can hold on the ball, you're fucked. You don't have a running game, you're fucked.
Exactly. And so to me, man, it's like I think Belichick. If the tension between those two is true, I think like Belichick is going to stick around way longer than Brady, and if he can knock out a couple Super Bowls or whatever the fuck. Without Brady, that whole narrative is changing, my friend.
So our last point about the system being the system, because there's a lot of people who would debate that, but the mic drop about a system is the Jacksonville Jaguars made it to the AFC Championship game with Blake Bortles. Enough said.
Yeah, yep.
We're talking to Victor Togunde. Let's switch to some NBA talk, because we used to talk NBA a lot. I really don't watch NBA and the ratings have been down, like way down. I get my sports fill primarily from podcasts, radio shows.
Why do you think the ratings are down, man?
I know they're down because I've heard it on podcasts. Yeah. They're down like 20-something%. So the Levitard show, because they troll their people a lot. So that if you don't listen to the show enough, you think they're being serious, when really they're a parody spoof of a real sports show. Although they do talk sports. And one of the times, probably 3 weeks ago, they had said, why do you think the ratings are down? And they said, do you think James Harden is the reason why the ratings are down? And people took him seriously and just were freaking losing their minds on Twitter. Like, what kind of show is this? And how can you blame James Harden? But that style of ball, I mean, the Golden State Warriors, they lost everybody through injury or free agency. And so really, I mean, and what's his face? Zion Williamson, he finally has his debut soon, but
yeah,
But I mean, it's just, I think the season's too long, and people, I think they start paying attention after the All-Star break, which is coming up. Where are you with James Harden?
I mean, I like him.
Can't stand him.
Why?
I can't stand him. I hate his style of ball, but I give him his props. He's scoring. If you don't want him to score, then stop him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He goes in with his head down and flails up and gets, 40% of his points at the free throw line. But when he's on, he's great. I mean, he's, I'll give him his props from his scoring, but, when I guess I get defensive when people's like, is he the best scorer of all time? And is he the best? Shut up, man. Get out of here with this shit.
The fact that a general manager picked up Westbrook, Harding, and fucking Durant. Good
at one point in time, huh? Back when they were like the future of the NBA. And
and all Harding wanted was 6-man money. And he would have stayed in Oklahoma, and they refused to give him 6-man money. And so he left and inadvertently became an MVP candidate. Like, that's crazy to me.
An MVP candidate that chokes like a motherfucker in the postseason. Houston Rockets aren't doing too hot either. Now that they got 2 of the 3 back together, they're 26 and 16. I'm looking at them right now. Yeah. They're 6th in the Western Conference.
As long as they're in there, as long as they're around in the 8th, they're good.
Yeah, I guess.
We'll see what's
but I'm just, I don't know why. I just can't. I'm not a huge fan of his at all. But like I said, I give him his props, from scoring. But I wouldn't go see him play, me personally. But I don't know who in today's NBA who I would go see play.
I'd see Giannis. Play. Obviously, LeBron. I would see Ja Morant play.
Oh yeah, so I've seen him on Twitter. The Ja, like Jhae.
Yeah, Jhae. Yeah.
Well, he's a highlight reel because that's all I ever see on Twitter. Like I don't even know what team he plays for. What team does he play for?
Grizzlies, I think.
The Grizzlies, yeah. But like I'm not big on Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah.
I can't watch him. He's just this long, lanky, athletic guy, but it just looks so easy for him. It's hard for me to watch and care.
And then the Great White Hope, Doncic.
Oh yeah, I think I'd go see that kid play with the Dallas Mavericks. Yeah. Man,
I want him to do well. I like him.
Did you see what happened to Chandler Parsons?
No.
So I saw this on Twitter. He got hit by a drunk driver.
What?
Yeah, and he's got they say it's career threatening. He may not ever play again. He's got some major damage done.
This is just recent?
Yeah, this was Chandler Parsons seriously injured car accident. This was today.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, he's got a brain injury. They're saying that man, it's hard because, not to be white, black, whatever, but when there's a really good white dude, you you got to pay attention, you're like, oh man, in an African-American dominated sport.
Yeah, man.
You just don't like seeing people that
it's like you always want those dudes
seriously hurt like that. You're like, oh man, that dude was really good. You kind of start rooting for him, so yeah, it's just too bad.
Oh, damn, that's unfortunate. Fuck, I'm reading it right now. Yeah.
So we touched on it earlier. Let's talk about it now. They've been teasing us. I think they've been teasing us for a couple of years. And I was like, who the hell wants to wait 2 years to see this? But this is here. I think it comes out in June. ESPN, The Last Dance, the story of the 97-98 Chicago Bulls. I've seen some of the preview videos. I am hyped.
Bro. Like, have you ever in your life seen the only time in my life, dog, I've seen anything teased 2 years out is it's like some big, like, tentpole movie. You know what I mean? Like
Star Wars is coming back, or
exactly.
Fellowship of the Ring, or some shit. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like a little 30-second teaser in the movies because they haven't even shot a frame of film yet.
Yep.
But the studio said, we already know this is coming out on this date, Memorial Day weekend, and the fucking crowd goes wild in the movies. That's the only time you've seen that. And then these motherfuckers said, we're going to take that premise and tease the world about a 10-part documentary series? That's crazy. But you know what I heard? So, I don't know if you know this, my younger brother, Kola, right? Every summer he used to visit me here in LA.
Uh-huh.
And one of the goals was to get him as many looks as possible. This was like, 10 years ago when, he was, still in high school and whatnot, over 10 years ago.
Right.
And one of the goals was to get him as many looks as possible, for possibly getting college. So I put him on all these AAU teams, right? All through LA. And, in that he ended up becoming really good friends with a bunch of kids that are now, a lot of them are in the NBA or trainers. I remember a young Kawhi Leonard, put him on the Riverside squad with Kawhi. So, my brother's really connected with the basketball circles and what's kind of been going on. And the rumor is that Jordan had been getting so annoyed at the LeBron is the greatest talk that they kind of launched this plan to be let's just put this shit together and remember and remind motherfuckers why I'm the greatest. And so that's what this whole thing is kind of about, to make sure they recalibrate that narrative on who's the greatest.
I don't know. I mean, there could be something to that, but except for it's not like you can go back in time and start filming.
No. But I think here's the deal. You can't go back in time and start filming. But when I think when you're at that level, right, of stardom, of this is like the NBA at its peak when Jordan was the biggest star in the world. So yeah, there was definitely just a videographer
absolutely.
You
and I had this conversation. Actually, I'm thinking about it now because I remember exactly where I was. I was on the Columbia Turnpike and outside of Morristown, New Jersey, and we were having the conversation about Jordan and LeBron James. Yeah, I remember I was headed to my hotel and we were talking about it on the phone. So yeah, I can understand that because that was in 2018 and this was announced in 2018.
Yeah. That was when the buzz was real, man. And dude, listen. I mean, I think when the record books are when LeBron James is run is over, I think he's going to be considered the greatest. But, not to get off on that tangent, I just can't fucking wait to see what the hell is in this damn documentary. Because if it was as exciting as... Did you see the 30 for 30 just on Rodman alone? Remember that one?
Yeah.
That was really entertaining.
I had no idea they never talked to each other at all.
What?
Yeah, he said they never talked.
Yeah.
Rodman and Jordan and Pippen never had a conversation, never once.
Yeah. They just business. It was all business.
Yep.
So it's going to be really interesting. I mean, there was some amazing nuggets. You one of the nuggets that I got out of that Rodman documentary. That I didn't give it serious thought, but I was like, The thing that really stuck out at me was wow, I guess it is possible in a weird way for an adult to just find comfort in hanging out with a kid.
Yeah, because one of his best friends was a little kid, right?
Kid. You know what I'm saying? Because I never understood that shit as far as Michael Jackson was concerned. But then here...
Well, hopefully they were on different...
No, of course. But here's the thing. The whole premise was that Rodman, who was this innocent, for lack of a better word, had a what's the word I'm looking for? He didn't have the emotional maturity, and he just wanted to hang out with this kid in an innocent kind of way, where he became family, and he's spending the night at the kid's house, and you know what I'm saying?
So I had a book. I hate reading, but I tell people that doesn't mean I don't know how to read.
Yeah.
And I had a book, Dennis Rodman, Bad as I Want to Be.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
And I read that book. Yeah. And so in that book, he talked a lot about that, how his family was fucked up, and he didn't live with his mama and stuff like that. And he actually, befriended this family that was completely different than him and hung out with them all the time. Super depressing, childhood and all sorts of crazy shit, which is why he almost committed suicide and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I touched him once. So when I was in a club, this was probably late 90s, early 2000s in Dallas, actually, in Oak Cliff. No, not Oak Cliff, Oak Lawn.
Yeah.
Completely different area, as you know.
Yeah.
And so we went to a club, I forgot what it was called, but it was... He was in there. I was hanging out with my boys. We're dancing. He was like right in front of me. Everyone's putting their hands up. And reaching out and grabbing. And it's like, yeah, I like put my hand on his shoulder, like, oh shit, Dennis Rodman. That's my Dennis Rodman story.
Yeah. Oh, no, I remember my only Dennis Rodman story. Club. I remember I was in a club. He was playing with the Lakers. He had that short stint with the Lakers. And I was like, bro, why are you here right now? Y'all have a game tonight. Right? I remember thinking that. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't ask him?
No, I didn't ask him. I just remember seeing him at the club when I knew the Lakers had a game that night.
The circles you run with usually have a little better access than any circles that I run with.
But yeah, man, The Last Dance, dog, like 10 parts. Like,
I can't wait.
God knows what they're going to touch on. God knows.
I think what's going to happen is for people like us, I don't think they're going to say anything that's going to blow our minds because, like, for me, I'm a fan. I tell people I was so invested in the Chicago Bulls.
I remember.
You remember my wall?
I
remember my wall.
remember.
It was. There wasn't a.
Dude,
there
you're
wasn't
gonna love it. Let me tell you why you're gonna learn it and why you're gonna.
I gotta blurt that out again. Okay.
Oh, Jay. Let me tell you, Jay, why you're gonna love it. If it is anything like 30 for 30 has been done, which by far is hands down the greatest documentary series of all time. I tell non-sports people, here's what 30 for 30 does for me. We're both old enough to remember actual events of what happened in sports at the time. And then for 20, 30, 40, or 20, 30 years to go by, and then they retell it and actually put it in context as to what happened, what was happening back then, is hands down some of the best shit ever. What you thought you knew is always turned on its head. And so the idea that ESPN took this on in 10 parts, I'm pretty sure each night there's going to be some nugget that's dropped that's going to be like, holy shit.
I think really because we've seen it, right? But I think that people younger than us, their minds are going to be blown so much more than our minds. Because like I said, man, I lived, eat, breathe. I dedicated myself to the unofficial religion of Jordanism. Yeah. Like everything was Jordanism or Dion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that people are just going to have their minds blown wide open with this documentary, especially like people that are fringe and NBA players, because even though they're in the NBA, there's no way they've had access to everything that we had growing up as far as, because things aren't just covered the same way anymore.
Jeez.
As far as sports histories. And they're going to be like, oh, so yeah, I guess I do have to hate my friend, Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah.
So we're talking to Victor Togunde. You have time for another segment? You want to talk about acro yoga and some of the other things, or do you Acromachine? Okay,
sounds good.
So when we come back, we'll hit that. Welcome back to the Hard Parking Podcast. Again, we are sitting here. Well, not sitting here on the phone. I have Victor Togunde. We're going to move into you. So you have grown like, this is a bad, I was going to say like a weed, but nobody likes weed. But I would say, so in my landscape in Phoenix, no matter what I do to the rocks, there's always weeds and shit that grow up.
Yeah.
I would say that for you,
gotta get Roundup.
Yeah, that shit causes cancer. I know that.
Oh, never mind
that. So for you, like, you've had one real job, right? You still don't have a regular job?
Nope.
You had one real job at merry-go-round in high school.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was
your job at Richardson Square Mall. So no matter what you faced in life, you've continued to grow. And, the last few years, you started hitting it really hard with, your acro yoga, and you've grown the Acromachine. So this is his official Instagram, at least one of them. The big one is at the Acromachine.
Yeah.
And you teach, you travel, you do all this sort of acrobatic yoga. Like tell my listeners, which are primarily car people, but not really, because this is a car podcast and we haven't talked hardly any cars at all.
Well, first, I took up acro, man. It was a hobby. I don't call it acro yoga because I just hate the term yoga. Like,
Yeah, but I said acro yoga just because Acromachine. They're like, what the fuck is that?
I know. Yeah. I took it up as this like this hobby that ex-girlfriend had introduced me to, and like yourself, you have your regular 9 to 5. You found your passion in cars, right? And specifically, accurate NSXs and just like that whole car culture. And I've always like admired people like that who just, whenever I have a spare moment outside of family, obviously, right? This is what I breathe and love, and you know what I mean. And I had never had that. Like my whole life in this industry was work, or trying to get work or whatever. And so when I had discovered acro,
What industry is that, Victor?
I'm in the entertainment. I'm an actor. Yeah, I do that thing on TV, right?
All right, so I just thought, so before we do the Acromachine, I'm going to officially introduce you because I guess you're just going to be my Instagram profile highlight of the week.
All right, cool.
All right, so everybody, I'll just go right into it. The Instagram profile highlight of the week is sponsored by NSX Channel. That's at NSX Channel on Instagram, your number one source for NSX content, whether it's just basic OEM or it's built like a fighter jet like mine. My Instagram profile highlight of the week is Victor Togunde, which you may continue.
What's up? Yeah. So acro. So I discovered it. Oh my God. I discovered. I just saw something on Instagram that was just like, this girl's hot. I discovered it. Yeah, like about 5.5 years ago, man. And what turned into a hobby, bro, ended up being like something where I'm like making some nice money on the side. I'm being able to teach people how to just go beyond like their wildest dreams in terms of like, the type of movement that's possible.
So excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt. So you're saying on the side, or is it primarily taking over? Or is it still on the side?
Yeah, I guess. I don't want to say it's primarily taken over. I mean, I still have my.
You still can't live off of it.
No, I still can't live off.
Okay, all right.
Of it. Yeah. Or I wouldn't. I can live meagerly off of it, but I'm not trying to be like a lot of the homeless, like yogis and all those kind of like people that I see.
Which, by the way, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you because we're friends.
Yeah, man.
One thing I've admired about you is because, like we said earlier, you've been in the industry, and you get paid to do commercials and stuff. And you do auditions, you get paid for your time. You've been in a few big movies, but it's been a while, and you've only worked at Merry-Go-Round as a regular job. So one of the things I've always admired is that you've managed to stay afloat and manage your money, or as Beast Mode is referred to it in a recent podium appearance, your chicken, which I don't even know. You've taken you've taken care of your chicken for years. So that's one thing I've always admired about you, is you've been able to take care of your chicken. You're not living out there lavishly. You've had a few BMWs, but you're not going out and buying a Lamborghini. You're taking care of yourself. And it's been like this for years because you're getting ready to have a birthday here at the end of the month.
I know.
So you're going on 30 something years of this life.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had some like high points, some low points. Oh God. Like I've had some, like, as far as like finances. Yeah, it's definitely.
What's the lowest of the low? Like, what's your lowest point?
My lowest point, God, maybe going on like 12 years ago. I just went through a terrible breakup, dude. That just, and everything.
I might remember that.
Yeah, and everything that kind of just came out of that because of just like how I just handled it, and my mind wasn't there in terms of work. And I think it was the first time I actually had to like borrow money. You know what I mean, to kind of like stay afloat.
Yeah.
And that was like, and it was scary because, like you said, I mean, I've never really had a normal job or anything. And so, it was the first time I'd ever like needed to like make a resume. And and I don't know if I should say this now, but you know what I mean? Like But no, I remember having to like call friends and be like, hey, you own a company, right? Like, yeah. I'm like, can I just say I work for you? And like shit like that, dude. Like it was bad.
Well, I mean, there's no shame in any of that, and
no, there isn't. There isn't. But it was like it was scary because I when your last job was in '93, you know what I'm saying? Like, how are you going to put that on a resume to like get a job and get work? And to this day, man, I could walk the streets and if I'm in a populated area, somebody's going to come up to me and be like, hey, aren't you the guy from Can't Hardly Wait that came out a billion years ago? Like I still get recognized. You know what I'm saying? And,
you're that guy from that thing.
Yeah. And so like, just to get personal, like that situation that happened with, you remember the dude from the Cosby Show when he got put on blast for working at Trader Joe's?
Yes.
That was like my fear, dog.
Yeah.
That was my fear. When that happened to him, I felt it. I felt that in a real fucking way. You know?
But like so I listen to a lot of interviews and some of the most popular people now have stories just like that, if not worse.
Yeah. But I know in a way, I mean, other than like, look, I mean, we just talked about earlier, like Delonte West,
mm-hmm.
right? Like, I don't know if it gets any worse than that.
Right. But then I mean, we've known from back when he got, pulled over with all those guns in his car, he had some mental shit going on.
Yeah. And that true.
Yeah.
But like, man, it's just, I mean, we live in a day and age now where like the new celebrity is Instagram famous people, and they have, they're probably broken, but they're famous. You know what I'm saying? And so, in a weird way, it was like it used to be fame or being recognized on the street was also correlated with like having some type of financial independence, and so, so it's definitely a scary thing.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry if this took a dark turn.
No,
we can go back to the Acromachine if you want.
But honestly, it's good you bring it up. Like as far as the Acromachine is concerned, like the thing that I loved about Acro is it definitely gave me like an escape. It gave me peace. It gave me like where I didn't have to like always be consumed about like the industry, and I just love it, man. I love being in this space, this budding thing that's still kind of on the fringes, and the idea of taking on the challenge of being able to take this shit global, dog, where like everyone is doing it. I'm gonna say it now, bro. If Acro becomes a thing, I believe wholeheartedly that my name will be mentioned amongst the people that will say I'm the reason why they discovered. And and a lot of the founding people, they don't embrace me, because they have a set way of of looking at how Acro should be attacked, and what they don't realize is that they've been doing it in a way that's not as inclusive to more people. Not everybody is trying to get naked with their dicks out and going to Burning Man and swinging around. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Not everybody's not into that. And so when you have an entire activity that's kind of consumed by those type of individuals, it really doesn't make it appealing for just like the layman like yourself to want to get involved into it. And so I'm kind of like this secular answer to it, where it's like, wow, like the way I do it, the way I kind of, go about it, I at least hope becomes appealing to a lot more people, a lot more people in the masses,
Yeah. And, when, surfing your page, and I've noticed this over time, is you have women, kids, like people come to you and without really knowing the inside of it, it seems like they're really coming to you to help learn some stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's it's mesmerizing to watch because half the videos are slowed way down. Like I feel like I die watching half of them, and I'm like, man, I would be dead right now with that shit. So people listen to this. As they listen to this, I tell everybody who's listening to this, go to @the_Acromachine on Instagram, and as you're listening to this podcast, watch some of these videos, and they will freaking blow your mind at the stuff that Victor does with these people. I mean, where does that come from? Because in high school, you played on football originally, and then you were a male cheerleader. So you did all this flipping and spotting and holding people up. And is that where this comes from? Because
that's kind of the secret to the success, right? Of how I was able to kind of attack it the way I did, is because I took what I learned as a cheerleader and I took it into this space. Like the people who currently inhabit this space, they work from a very slow, fearful perspective of not getting too much on the edges because of their fear of what can happen. And, I'm more of, okay, troubleshoot this. What are all the ways it could go wrong? Earn the trust of my flyer. I trust my flyer. She trusts me. We have spotters. Let's just fucking do it. And that's just my thing. And then once we both feel comfortable about it, then we take it and we go for it. Right. And so, coming, and that's kind of how I was kind of taught in the cheer world. So that's kind of why I've always had a leg up on everybody. It's not that I'm physically stronger or better than them. It's just my whole mental approach is just different. And that's kind of what separates me from, everybody else who currently inhabits this space,
So for the visual people who aren't actually watching and they're listening to this, explain to them exactly what it is we're doing. This looks like acrobatics.
Yeah, so basically another way to call it's an L base, right? So I'm laying on my back, right? And a flyer, who's generally a girl, right? She's, on top of my feet, like in a basic thing's called like a bird, kind of like how your parents used to put you on top of their feet and you would lay across, your feet across their stomach or whatever, right? Yep. So it's the same thing. And, you've seen like remnants of it, like in the circus where, someone's like laying down and then they're juggling someone in the air, right? That's called Icarian. But yeah, that's basically what it is. You're one person's laying on the back, another person is, on top of them, so to speak, for lack of a better word. And yeah, man, you're just creating like movement between the both of you. A series of movements that begin and end. They're usually called machines. And then like what I do, I specialize in like flows, which is more like kind of choreography.
The Acromachine.
Yup.
Again, that's the Acromachine on Instagram. I don't even know how you do it. I don't know.
I don't know how I do it either. But
have you ever had someone fall on your face?
Yeah, I mean, plenty of times. I'm like, we do these things called whips, and if they don't tuck tight enough, sometimes my balls gets bruised all the time. Yeah, man.
Do you have to wear a cup? Have you ever thought about it?
I try to wear a cup, and
didn't work.
They just made it bigger. That just so it didn't really help. Yeah.
Wow, what a problem to have.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, man. It's kind of crazy, but no, I'm having, dude. Like when I got into this, and like I realized like I could actually like have fun and make money at the same time. Like when everything changed is when I started an Instagram, and people from like Bali and Costa Rica and Brazil was like, "Hey, if I fly you here, will you teach me and my community of people?" And I'm like, "Are you serious?" Yes. Like, hell yeah. So I started.
So where's the furthest you've traveled for this? Where's people flown you in? I
just got back from Brazil last month. Just got back from Brazil back in December. Best time, dude. Like I got, like, it was just fun. I was there in Brazil, 2 cities in Brazil. Then I went to Chile. Then I went to Argentina, and then I flew back here. And yeah, man, I got paid to do that. I got paid to like experience another country.
This motherfucker got paid to go on vacation.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said at the beginning, I was like, if I can make that happen and travel the world off of this, I already won. And so I got offers from like all over the world to go there. So I'm excited about that. You know, my new thing is a new company I'm starting where I'm really going to kind of target more of the everyday person. It's like O&B Acros, named after Original Muscle Beach, because that's where my practice started, was at the beach in Santa Monica. Yeah, man. And I'm gonna take on the challenge to see if I can take this like to that next level.
You absolutely can.
Well, I appreciate it, good friend.
Well, I want to thank you for spending the time. I'd love to have you back at some point in the future. I think I say that in every single fucking podcast, by the way.
Well, I mean, of course, man.
But I mean it. I mean, we got to talk
you're
after
like 200 episodes in. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have to, like, have some of the same people come through. There's no problem with that. I mean, I enjoyed myself, dude.
Yeah, I enjoyed having you on. Hopefully the people enjoyed having you on, too. Again, that's Victor Togunde at the Acromachine on Instagram. He is also my Instagram profile highlight of the week, and he's also my end-to-end interview. Thank you for what are you fidgeting with over there?
Oh, toe clippers. Sorry.
Yeah, knock it off. That's fucking knock it off. All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, later, brother. Good talking to you, man.
It's time for the Builder's Corner segment, sponsored by DressUpBolts.com. Follow them at DressUpBolts on Instagram and visit them at DressUpBolts.com. They have titanium bolts that not only vastly improve the look of your vehicle, but serve a purpose as well. Available to dress up the engine bay and the engine, in case you have both. They have kits ready to go for your specific application, so visit them at DressUpBolts.com or visit them on Instagram at DressUpBolts. Today's Builder's Corner, I have Ben from Gears&Gasoline. What's going on, guys?
Hey, how you doing?
How's it going?
I'm doing good. Let's talk maybe some powertrain swaps or something.
Yeah, I love swapping cars. It's cheap insurance. They don't know about it, and not a lot of other people know what's going on underneath either. So yeah.
So if I buy, I don't know, Honda Civic or something, and I want to put something else in it, like what's the first thing I should think about?
I mean, it's always good to start with a good platform, like a good chassis. A Civic. So actually, a lot of people. So I'm K-swapping my Civic right now, and a lot of people are like, "Well, why don't you use a different chassis, something rear-wheel drive or something like that?" And that might be better. They're probably right there. An S2000 would probably be a better chassis. I'm attached to my Civic now. I love the EK chassis, so that's kind of what I'm going on with.
And it's cheaper.
Yeah, definitely. And it's less suspecting. I don't know. I kind of like the sleeper aspect of it a little bit. So it was previously Type R swapped. So it was a 97. And it had the B16B from the JDM Civic Type R. Didn't make a ton of power, but it revved to 9,000, which is pretty fun.
Very fun. Yeah.
And if that was a real, Type R, that'd be 15 grand, 20 grand. Well, it wouldn't be legal in the US, but even if it was, it would still be more expensive. I'm sure insurance would cost more. So it's nice to just have it swapped, and it's cheaper and doesn't cost as much in insurance.
So how often have you swapped out engines? And so I don't really know anything about that. I know that for the NSX, it's like, okay, well, you can get a J swap or a K swap. But I do know I can't put an LS in an NSX, I don't think. So how do you know what engine is compatible with your chassis?
Well, technically, with enough money, anything is possible. You could LS swap your NSX if you really wanted to. I hope you don't want to, but you could.
I absolutely do not want to.
I actually think people do K swaps on NSXs, yeah?
There are some K swaps, there are some J swaps.
Yeah. So, I mean, every platform kind of has their outlet. So, like my Forester is a standard Subaru Forester. It was an XT, I guess it still is. So, naturally, STI swapped that, put an EJ257 in, STI turbo, brakes, transmission, 6-speed, all that. It's kind of just whatever the platform is. So if you have, say, an Eclipse, you could do an Evo swap in it, right? Technically, you have more of a DSM.
I mean, I've seen a couple. I think that typically people don't do an Evo swap into an Eclipse because it's kind of like you're taking something really good and putting it into something that's like not as good. Whereas like a like a CT9A like Evo chassis, which is what the Evo powertrain comes in, is kind of like a better chassis to begin with. So, you know, if you can't afford a roller Evo chassis, but you can't afford like the whole powertrain and drivetrain that goes in it, that's kind of like a rare situation. I think kind of like when you're thinking about engine swaps, and you know, people like, it's funny because people talk about engine swaps like all the time, even when they don't know, you know, that they like maybe can't even do, I don't know, like a clutch job or something on their own car or something like that. But they always talk about like, oh, I'm going to LS swap my Volvo, or, you know, I'm going to do whatever, you know, I'm going to K swap my GTR, you know, whatever. I think that like there are factors that there's like kind of like three factors that go into why some engine swaps are like a thing, right? Like either the power plant is really good, like a K series, or an LS is, you know, they're potent, they're reliable, and they have good packaging options. Like they're well sized. They're also affordable, so affordability of like the actual engine and the platform, right? So there's not like a ton of LS swap Ferraris because like you can't afford a Ferrari. Like that's that would be extremely uncommon because nobody can afford that. And not enough people can afford it.
And who wants to replace that sound anyway?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, some people will do it just to do it.
Some people do it to just do it, but these are people that have swapped tons of cars before, right?
Yeah.
And they have a huge budget. So you're not seeing, you know, and then like the kind of like the last thing is like, why are these engine swaps common? It's because enough people are doing it. And that kind of like comes down to both the engine being powerful, reliable, good packaging, and common.
Availability then, yeah, like you said,
Right.
common. Because I know like with NSXs, a lot of the NSX guys, like the real NSX guys, not just somebody who just bought an NSX and wants to swap it because he doesn't like the power that it has, because there's plenty of other cars he probably could buy instead of buying an NSX to do that. But some of the guys that do it is to preserve the engine, because the C engine is like, not only is it discontinued, but it's like 16 grand.
Yeah.
And they're saying like some of these Ks and these Js, I don't know which is which, you know, are like $800. So the cost per fuck up is better.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a lot easier on the wallet, and you could get more power on it with the exchange of losing that beautiful sound, I guess.
Well, I guess the C was produced only for NSXs. Is that accurate? Or like it was
No pun intended with the accurate thing. Acura, yeah. I'm not techie enough to know that, but I'm going to say yes, because I don't know about the Cs, at least the C32 or the C30s.
Yeah, I mean they were a low production motor compared to the J series, which has been in every Honda Odyssey since the second gen of Honda Odyssey, so like 2 decades of Honda Odysseys, or K motors that have been in everything from Honda Accords to Civics to whatever. Like they're just Ks on Ks on Ks on Ks.
Yeah, Ks are really in so many different cars. It's crazy. For good reason. They're a great motor. Yeah, I feel like a good reason to do a swap on a car is for cost savings benefit. So say you have an NSX, maybe you buy an NSX with a blown motor, or you buy a shell and you can't afford to get a C, so you put a K in. I know people do that with some Lotuses. Lodi? I've seen, Lotus and Aces with Ks in them.
I want to say, honestly...
Hold on, let's back up. So is the plural, are we trying to figure out what the plural form is Lotus is? Yeah.
Lodi. I think
that.
that's definite. Yeah.
I want to say that like you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, it would be like I can get a K way cheaper than like the Toyota engine that came in this Lotus or whatever. Yeah. But then by the time you've actually changed all of the stuff surrounding it, you've spent at least as much as the motor would have cost to just plop another one in. Yeah.
So I did a cost breakdown on my Forester to STI swap the Forester, and it would have been cheaper in the end to just buy an STI. So sometimes it's not just about the cost savings, albeit maybe you could, if you really wanted to get nerdy about it, take the cost savings of the insurance price being different and cheaper than an STI over a long-term range or whatever. But I mean, generally speaking, it's a lot more expensive than people think that it is.
So it comes down to, you have two, I'm guessing you have two basic type of people. You want to do it for the cost, and you want to do it just because you can and to say you have it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do odd swaps just to be unique.
There's also a third group of people that just do it purely for performance. Like the guy that's swapping Ben's car, he just every time you say, oh, I could do this car, he's like, yeah, but you could do a K swap S2000 and it would be better. And he's right from a performance standpoint, that's a super hard to beat package. And he's not doing it for recognition because he doesn't promote himself at all or anything like that. He's just doing it because he's obsessed with tracking. And when he goes to track days, he wants to take a good car. So he's K-swapped dozens of S2000s at this point.
So the motor's the motor or engine. I don't want to say the wrong thing.
No.
But then the tranny's the tranny.
Correct.
Yeah.
Motor is correct.
Okay, so the motor's a motor and the tranny's a tranny. So do you have to pick the motor that'll match up to the tranny? Like, how does that work?
Well, there's some companies make adapter plates, or you can make your own adapter plate. I mean, the swaps on my cars that I own are fairly basic swaps. They're like pretty traditional swaps. I know, so like LS RX-7s, a lot of them use the T56 transmission, but you could probably make it work with the regular transmission, maybe with an adapter plate or a CDO9.
So Ben is blessed to be doing swaps on 2 different cars that have good transmissions to begin with. Like his Forester, the 6-speed that they put into it is a really good transmission that's supposed to pair with the engine that he put into it, right? So everything's OEM there. And then the 6-speed that he's putting into the Civic is the 6-speed that is supposed to mate to that K series, and it works well. Like you're kind of in a worse position when you're going to something that's like not, and also the engines that he's been swapping into his cars are not that different from the engines that came out of those cars, right? It's not like he's LS swapping his Civic or something, and he's gonna make,
it's staying on brand.
He's not gonna make quadruple the torque that he was initially, so it's not like he has to go to some insane transmission that's going to hold that power, which is what you see when somebody LS swaps a RX-7 or a 240 or something like that, and now it's like, well, this OEM transmission that you had is not even an option anymore, so now you need to make some kind of T56 Magnum fit somehow or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the axles too, right? Like I've gone to the drag races that I've seen a car, it revs up and everyone's like, oh shit, this thing's about to be, this thing sounds badass, and it just pops and it doesn't go anywhere, and they push it off the line. So there's that last component, I guess. Yeah,
I mean, there's companies that make basically like drive shafts for any size, configuration, spline, whatever that you need.
It's just making it fit in the hubs.
But yeah, then you got to make sure the axle angle is right, make sure it doesn't bind.
It can be the dumbest shit that like hangs you up, right? It's like, oh, I need one more half inch of clearance here, or I can't find the axles with the right splines, or.
And that's the stuff that nobody sees either. They just see the end result. Oh, you put this engine in this car. Wow, cool. There's so much more that goes into it that people don't realize. It's not just Forza where you put whatever motor you want in whatever car.
Right. Yeah, that's a damn good example. So we could probably sit here and talk about this all day, but I really appreciate you guys taking time to talk to me. Ben and Ben of Gears and Gasoline. Hey, you know what? You guys should probably think of maybe getting like a YouTube channel or something together, because this is really good educational stuff. I think people might want to watch that.
A YouTube channel?
Yeah, I've heard of that before, yeah?
Yeah, I've seen some of those YouTube videos.
I'll tell you what, so once you guys get that figured out, and then we'll reach back out to you later on this year, and if you've had a little bit of success, then maybe we can help you grow your channel a little bit more.
Oh, thanks. Well, so how many subs do we need to get for you to have us back on the show?
I don't know, probably, at least 1,000. Maybe you get 1,000 and I could boost you to 1,005.
All right, we'll give it our best shot.
All right, guys. Thanks. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Jay.
The last segment of this week's podcast, I'm introducing a new section, and it's only going to last. It's only as good as you guys. And so I put up 2 questions on my Instagram. One of them was, ask me something that has nothing to do with cars. Ask me something that has to do with cars. The first one, shout out to Aaron Day, which is Unleashed Beast. That's UNLEASHED for Unleashed_Beast with 2 S's, BEASST. He asked, what is your achievable dream car? It's not a P1 or something like an F40, but something you can realistically purchase. The Acura NSX, the one I have, we'll go way back. I don't want to spend too much time as it's already a long podcast. But my 2 ultimate dream cars were a McLaren F1 and a Vector W2 W8. But I decided when I first saw the NSX and looked it up, and I was like, oh man, it only costs X amount of money, that the Acura NSX and the Porsche Carrera, at the time it was a 962, but when I started looking at cars seriously, the 993 had come out. So I decided that between the Porsche and the NSXs, those were my 2 most realistic, achievable, obtainable dream cars. The current gen Acura NSX that I have, or I guess the old Acura NSX like I have, and a Porsche Turbo. The non-car question goes out to Possum Killer MK6, which is PSSMKLLR period MK6. What's the best life advice you were ever given? It's not something that someone sat down and talked to me about. And what I'm about to say is commonly, you see this a lot in motivational speaking. You see it a lot in sales. But back when I used to try to do sales, I listened to a guy named Jim Rohn. Not Jim Rome, the podcast king, but Jim Rohn, Rohn. And he said something, and I listened, put it in the cassettes, because that's what we had back in the day, were cassettes, not DVDs. And he said, the same wind blows on us all. And the 4 winds, I don't remember what they were, like the winds of deception, the winds of this, the winds of that. But basically the point is the same thing happens to everybody for the most part. And he said it's the setting of your sail which determines your outcome, which basically means if some messed up shit happens to me, my reaction ultimately is what dictates my viewpoint and the outcome. The same wind blows on us all. It's the setting of your sail that determines your course. So you can choose to react however you want to react. Somebody pisses you off at work, you can react multiple ways. But however you choose to react is ultimately how the result is going to end up. And I've always remembered that. The same wind blows on us all. And I always tell people, shit happens to you. Everything's relative. And I think I said this in another podcast. But an example is I could walk out, I could pick up my coffee, I could spill it on myself. I've had a horrific day. That is the worst day I've had all week because I spilled coffee on myself. Or I can come home and find that my doors are locked because I didn't pay my bills if I'm renting at an apartment. And I have a kid and I have a dog that's trapped, at the neighbor's house. Thank God not inside. And I can't even afford to feed my kids. My house is locked out. I'm having a fucked up day. So my point is, obviously that's a lot worse than spilling the coffee on yourself, but it's all your sense of perspective. It's all relative. It's just how you handle every situation. So the same wind blows on us all. So with that being said, this has been the Hard Parking Podcast. Special thanks to the Passion Hi-Fi for the tunes that I download from SoundCloud. Special thanks to the Instagram profile highlight of the week, which is Victor Togunde, which is also the end-to-end interview. The Acromachine, love talking sports with him. We're going to do some more with him in the future when the Michael Jordan special comes out on ESPN. Special thanks to our guests for the Builder's Corner, Ben and Ben from Gears and Gasoline. Give them a follow at Gears and Gasoline on Instagram, or go ahead and look them up on YouTube. They have 598,000 plus subscribers. Please send your email questions to hardparkingpodcast@gmail.com. You can DM me on Instagram at NA2NSX. Please subscribe, tell a friend, leave a positive review. Let's do this. Let's grow this thing together.
Shut up!